So you want to build a burnout car that looks something like this, that skids incredibly well, then this is the video for you. This is also sort of a intro to BeamNG and just what mods you need to do sick skids that you're going to see in this video. And it's just here to sort of provide that. I've got a Discord. If you want to join it, I'll help you out with anything that you need. And yeah, enjoy the vid. Alright, so this is sort of where the car's going to start. It's dumped somewhere in the middle of, I think, a sawmill, something like that. Just absolutely wrecked. We'll see how we go, but I don't think it's going to do any sort of mad skid for us. If we can even get it out of here, that is. It's got some nice all-terrains on it, but nothing much more. I think that the extent of our test is going to be rev it to all heavens and see what happens. Over rev risk first, that's exactly what you want to see. And yeah, it's not going to do any... Whoa, wow, my wheel has fully come off. Funny that. So let's get this car all the way to a shop and actually start working on it. Alright, so now that you've got your car to somewhere that is actually nice to work on it, I'm going to put it up on a lift. You don't have to. This is a paid garage. It's made by Dirty Sam, I believe his name is, something like that. I'll link it in the description below if you do want to get his stuff. It's really cool. He's got this whole fully developed like drag parachute, which isn't necessary for the Burnout car we're about to build, but it may be necessary if you do want to be one of the super cool drag guys, because it actually works and it does slow the car down significantly. So if you ever run into that issue, there is always that option. I think we can skip to the part where I actually get this car on the lift. Alright, one of the cool things about it's not Dirty Sam, it's Drowsy Sam, now that I've now remembered that. But regardless, one of the coolest things is that he makes these lifts that actually work. You do need to remember the controls for them and not open up your menu in order to be able to use it, but, you know, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. And increase height. And it just adds a whole another level to building a car. I quite like it. You may not, and that's a you thing. But we'll get into it. Alright, so where I normally like to start with any sort of burnout car is just building an engine for it. The engine I most commonly use, if it's like big block blow-in type build, is the 500 Cube. This is made by MEO or MEO, which I'll also link in the description. This is a Patreon engine, but there is a version of it which is just a blow-in version, because this type has like NA turbo as well. This one, I prefer it, but there is a free version available. It's just on the repository if you want to find that. Engine mounts are pretty important. You don't want to just flopping about in the bay. It's not crucial really, but I do still like to have it. In terms of transmission, I use Turbo 400s. For this car I may actually try a Power Glide, just to try something different, and just to sort of stick to the realistic side. A lot of burnout cars do only have 2 speeds, just a, you know, a gear to start getting them spinning and then just full power. A tunable converter. Trans brake, of course. And yeah, that's all on the transmission side. This is Adam's Drag transmission, which is available on Too Fast Racing, which I will also link in the description below. There's going to be a lot of stuff down there. Hopefully it helps hopefully it helps get this all straightforward. I like making my throttle body chrome. You can keep it black, make it look carbon, personal preference. And just while we're at it, just to get things looking good, I am going to open up the bonnet. And for this blower, it's perfectly cut out with just the big block cut hood. And yep, there's that. And I will also take off this, not the fuel tank, take off this ridiculously big front bumper. Sweet, so now that we have a engine and box in, which are probably the most important part, minus the diff, to actually getting your car to do mad skids. We can start working on some suspension components. I like to get all the running gear done first, just because it helps. Just keep track of stuff. If something doesn't work, you would rather do it than just work on the entire interior and body to just find out the car's not going to do skids. So it's best to just start with the important stuff. Radiator support, you're going to want to get a much better radiator. These things rev, this thing revs to 6.5 grand, and it's basically going to be sticking around that sort of range for most of the skid. So it's going to get warm. You want to keep it as cool as possible so it doesn't blow up on you. Independent front suspension, in terms of this, it is up to you. I would recommend using race stuff because it's a bit stiffer and it helps you actually steer. You can go rally. I'm not sure there's much of a point. It's just going to mean the front is going to sort of dip side to side a lot more, which isn't going to help you get much more control. I put a sway bar in the front. I would recommend doing the same. Front brakes, I would just go race front disc brakes. If your car has drum and disc, then go disc. But if it's only drum, you really don't have any option. Premium front brake pads, just because race pads need to have heat in them to work. For steering, I would go a drift box, because it's essentially drifting what we're doing. Power steering is personal preference. I'm going to put it on this car because I know that it's really heavy to drive, and I kind of don't like having to deal with a massively heavy wheel. We're going to leave wheels for the moment, although I may just take them off to remind me to actually do it. And then we move on to the rear suspension. So for this, if you have a drag option, I normally put it on. It just gives you more tunability. This is another thing where I would say 4-link is definitely better. There's no real reason, it's almost an opinion, but I think it's because it gives you more support on either side and an equal sort of support on both wheels. Although that's probably not at all right or valid. Depending on what you want the car to do, you can also have personal preference here. I go rally because it just means you get more travel, and it just allows the car to actually compress more. Although if you prefer just having a really stiff rear end, then you can just go race as well. Same with sway bar. I've recently not been running sway bars just because I feel it helps with the tip in a lot, so I'm not going to run a sway bar. If you want to run a sway bar and find out if you like it, then feel free. The rear brakes, I like to upgrade them just because sometimes I put radials on my Burnout cars and just see how they go down the quarter mile. You can fully take them off if you're building a skid pig or something like that, but I'll just put them on because we'll use a line locker. Rear diff, our diff is already welded, so I'm gonna leave it like that. You can sort of run a weldy, or you can maybe tune a limited slip diff. I haven't noticed that much of a difference either, other than just normal drivability. If you want to street your car, maybe put an LSD in it, but you don't have to. Adjustable final drive is really important because you can go 27.3 here, but a lot of these cars have too much power and will just burn through all of that. Once again, these rear wheels I'm going to leave till later. Alright, and that clears up most of our main running gear. Now we can get onto the fun cosmetic stuff. But, before we do that, line lock, super important if you're going to run rear brakes. Get that rear wheel line lock on, and then that's sorted. And finally, we can now get onto our bodywork. It's really personal preference if you run a cage. It's not necessary, but it's also sometimes just cool looking. If it is a car that you maybe want to drive quick, then do put a cage in it, just for that realism factor, but it's not going to be make or break. You'll get a bit more chassis tension, but not that much more. Alright, cool. So, now that we've done the whole body, you don't have to do that. I just choose to do it because it's sometimes kind of nice to just build it from the ground up, and it's often just easier to figure out what you're missing when it's just not there at all. But once again, it's up to you. If you want to have just a fully stock car that you drop a great motor into, that's perfectly fine. If you want to take a rusted out shitbox like this and then build it up into a sick burnout car, that's up to you as well. Beautiful thing about video games is it doesn't matter, it's just pixels. Now we're up to the wheels. So once again, we go into config. You've probably done it before. I choose to use the drag wheel pack a lot. I'm gonna do it for this one. You can get proper like real life wheels. You can get Simmons and Walkies and stuff like that. I'll see if I can link any of them down below. Don't count on it because a lot of it's hard to find or is just non-existent anymore. But I will try and do a bit of a Discord search just so that this is a great place to get into doing skids on BeamNG. We're going to want to widen these. I'm going to go 8-inch. I may move it down to 7 just to get, yeah, there we go, that should be good enough. And then I was planning to put some welds on it. I may have built this car earlier in the day, and I am rebuilding it for a video. So I know what I want to put on it. I will go and put some drag lights on it, and we'll keep them black because I think it just looks really tough. So just like that. You can run whatever you want for front runners. I would recommend running bigger wheels than what your rears are, but if it's the same, then that's fine. You may just have a little bit more trouble spinning them. In terms of tyre, you can do whatever you like. I'm just going to leave them as they are because it will probably be fine. Or maybe I'll go, yeah, I'll just leave them. That should be all good. The rear wheels do make a difference. So just at the start, getting the car looking pretty, I am going to put some drag wheels on it. I'll just put the same welds on, just a little thicker. Sorry, a little wider. And a size or 2 down, I think. Yeah, we'll go 15-inch. And just see how we're looking. Yep. There's that. Welds. Oh. Yep. There we are. And drag light. And that's just to get some pretty photos. We're not going to keep the drag tyres on there. Because obviously it won't skid. But just here we can go radial, and that's going to spin a little better, considering how much horsepower we have, and it's through a weldy, it's going to happen. Sweet. So now for some reason all my radials are coming out shiny, so we're going to have to find one that isn't. And then we should be all good. Alright, beautiful. Now I believe we are all good to rip this thing down off the lift. Whew, are we going to clip on that back there? We sure are. That's not great. Well, this hasn't gone as gracefully as I expected. That's alright. Another beautiful thing about video games, eh? Oof. Yeah, it's going to do what we need it to. So we'll park her up. And I honestly think that's looking pretty cool. It's looking pretty good. I like the side pipes. They're a nice little touch. Gonna get those rears nice and hot. Hopefully we get a fire. But, so once you're done with this, if you are going to do it in a garage like this, make sure you save it. Name it whatever you want to name it. do whatever, but just make sure you do save it. There's been a few times where I've spent, you know, half an hour, maybe an hour, building a skid car, and then all of a sudden I go to change maps to drive it, you know, on a drag strip or something, and boom, it's gone. And it's just not fun. It's not fun. Or you accidentally overwrite another save, stuff like that. So just being a bit cautious when you do go to change maps and stuff is always beneficial. So speaking of that, we are going to go over to... Where do we want to go? I reckon we go for a nice little street cruise in West Coast USA. So I shall see you all then. Alright, I may have lied to you guys. We're actually ending up at, what's it called? This is industrial site, and there's a good reason for that. It means we can street cruise to an actual skid spot, which I now need to actually mark on my map. You can see it, it's just over here, and it is just the perfect spot, sort of base game to do burnouts. You know, sure, there's drag strips, there's a sort of concrete area in the derby arenas, but this is honestly my favourite spot, particularly for, you know, little 6-cylinder cars, so you actually feel like you're doing some cool burnouts and stuff. Cool burnouts, I mean illegal burnouts. I'm loving how these tyres are feeling. There's just enough traction to make street cruising possible. I mean, if we slow down, we'll see what happens. There's our line lock. That's not what I was looking for. There's our trans brake. Yeah. So it's not a drag car by any means. It's quite hard to street anything with a blower, just because of that instantaneous torque. But regardless, this is our little spot here, where we're gonna properly rip our first skid. Alright. I'd call that a successful skid. Alright. So I'm gonna end the video here. I think that it's already more than long enough. And yeah, the part 2 will be coming soon. It's gonna be a full-on test and tune, which, yeah, I hope you all look forward to. Any of you following along at home, I also wish you the best. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because it really helps me out. And if you want to see more of this, then join the Discord, link in the description, and yeah.